Possibility is such an amazing word. And when you partner with technology, we begin to see opportunities that we never saw before. Growing up with a cousin who had autism, I got to see how technologically directly impacted her life and changed her world. It literally gave her a voice. For the first 10 to 12 years of her life, she couldn't speak. She got technology and she had that voice. We see so much opportunity in how technology can continue to impact the lives of people with autism everywhere. And our team is so excited about our recommendation today to show how we see that growth and potential. We operated on the idea that equality was what mattered for a long time. We can see now that equity is what's important. Allowing people the specific skills and tools they need in order to be successful and have a meaningful and empowered life. Those need to be specific. We can't give everyone the same, because not everyone is born the same. People are born with different brains, just as they are different bodies. And we thought that was such an amazing quote, Melissa, and we think that's so important to embrace. Which is why we are so excited about our recommendation today. And you will see that it's the best course of action going forward. First, we believe that you need to register as a not-for-profit and gain some of those benefits that you can from doing so. Secondly, in order to help as many people as possible, we believe that we need an expansion plan in order to go into new areas and expand your current capacity. In doing so, you're going to ensure some sustainability for the future. You're going to generate some funds, not a lot, this is not for profit, as well as allow for some growth. Because, like I said, we want to help as many people as possible and see how technology can impact the lives of people with autism all over Ontario. So we will get started. My name is Kate. I will be taking you through the situational analysis and the decision criteria. My partner Jess will be going through alternatives and our recommendation. And my partner Tanner will be going through a lofty implementation, budget, risk, and timeline. So with that, I'd like to get started and share with you how we came to this conclusion today. So going internally first, our critical issue is that we just require a bit of strategic direction. You have so many ideas and so many different ways you could take this, and we just want to narrow that focus down onto more of a cause-focused campaign. Additionally, we need a viable business plan for growth, which you will see in the structure of our recommendation. So our internal analysis looks at some strengths internally. DAW's experience and connections with the autism community, as well as with technological firms and schools all over the community, is an astounding strength and will allow for a lot of our connections to be made in order to have some more future prosperity. As well as you have a very differentiated offering, and that specific criteria is what's going to allow us to get grants. You're offering something that no one else in the area is offering, and it's completely unique. So a couple of challenges with any not-for-profit. We do have a limited cash flow currently, and we do want to expand operations a little bit further. And the current capacity is strained with those current resources. Externally, a couple of opportunities. In the Ontario area, there is 250,000 people in the autism community that can potentially be a part of this program. It is niche, but it is substantial enough to expand. Again, we have a Liberal government, and this is new. More focus on social programs. Possibility for more funding in the future, more grants targeted towards these kinds of not-for-profit organizations. There are those substitute options in other autism-based societies that offer different programs, but again, they are different. We have a very differentiated and targeted type of program. Funding regulations are always an issue when we're applying for grants as a not-for-profit, and you will have to adhere to some of those. And finally, as you've seen, there's so many charities. There's a strain on volunteerism and money and sponsorship that has to be spread around to all of those. So those are always considerations we have to look at. So our decision criteria today that we thought was the most important for going forward, the possibility of expansion, we know that's one of your objectives, and we want to ensure that we have everything in place to do that. Secondly, we do need to raise some capital in order to fund that expansion. And we want to ensure the most possibilities for the people in the autistic community of Ontario. We want to make sure that we're giving them as many options as anyone else would have, and our recommendation will do that. With that, I would like to pass it to Jess. She's going to just discuss some of the different alternatives we considered, and ultimately how we came to our recommendation.
Thank you, Kate. So we've identified 3 alternatives here for you today, which satisfy the decision criteria that Kate just mentioned. The first focuses on a money-driven alternative. The second is a cause-driven alternative. And finally, the third is a growth alternative. So let's take a look in a bit more detail. The first one involves creating a social enterprise structure for your organization. So some of the pros that we've identified for this are the fact that it would gain more money from each of the attendees and clients. You would gain an additional 40% on top of the current price it is to participate in the program. And you would also have the opportunity with that to achieve the goal salary for Melissa. However, some of the cons that we've identified are that there is a limit to the amount of clients that we can help with smaller class sizes. Also, we have identified a bit of a limitation on the opportunities for these clients. Because this is sort of measured upon success of the ability for these clients to go into university programs and focus on technology development studies, we feel that this would limit the amount of success for this type of organization. So let's take a look at our second alternative, becoming a not-for-profit and using these benefits in your favor. So some of the pros that we've identified with this alternative are that it helps a large number of clients. With this, class sizes can be 15 participants rather than 5. Also, it opens doors for future possibility. So the fact of the matter is that this organization focuses on 3 major skills and the development within autistic children and youth of these skills. These include professional skills, technological skills, and social skills. And so with these skills, we don't want to limit these clients to just having to take studies around development. When you look at the clients that we've helped in the past, you can see that they've gone on to do so many different things with their lives. They're not just working in technological development. They're functioning members in society and they're prospering. And they have so many talents, but because of the development of these skills, the social, technological, and the social, technological, and the other skills that I mentioned previously, they're prospering in society. Some of the cons that we've identified with this alternative are that they're competing for grant money because they're not-for-profit. It's a very saturated market, and there are many organizations competing for this money from the government. Also, there is a limitation to the curriculum. There's not quite as much freedom with the curriculum because the government does have for its grants and its funding some requirements that you must meet. However, we have identified that these requirements do fall in line with the mission of the organization. And so therefore, we don't see it as being a huge issue. So our third alternative, creating an expansion plan. So the benefits to creating an expansion plan for your organization are that, number 1, you will generate interest in volunteering. Number 2, you will generate more funds to fund this expansion. And thirdly, you will reach new potential clients and really target that market. As Kate mentioned, there are 250,000 people in the autism community within this Ontario community. And so that's huge, and we just want to penetrate that as best we can with this alternative. So I've created for you today a decision criteria matrix to outline each of the alternatives. Along the top, you can see that we've identified the 3 decision criteria that Kate mentioned. And along the side is our 3 alternatives. I've marked a check mark beside the alternative that completely satisfies each of the decision criteria, and an X beside the ones that do not. So as you can see, the social enterprise, while it does generate more profits for you, it doesn't satisfy the other 2 decision criteria that we've outlined. As you can see, the expansion plan satisfies all 3 decision criteria, and is clearly the best option. So with that, our recommendation is to register as a not-for-profit organization and also implement this expansion plan to generate more volunteers, more funds, and more clients. So with that, I'm going to take you through and introduce you to our expansion plan. So Tech Ability. This is an all-encompassing marketing plan as well as fundraising event. So what we envision for your company is that you have this big event with Melissa's connections within the technology community. We feel that people will want to jump on the opportunity to sponsor such an event. And they'll want to be visible within the community as sponsoring the autism community and what this company stands for. And so what we envision is this fundraising event. What it will be is an evening event where we are going to send out an invitation to all 250,000 members of the autism community, as well as corporate sponsors within the community, to attend it. There will be a $10 entry fee, and what they'll get inside is an experience to just have fun with the family, basically. They'll be able to come and enjoy an evening where they're playing video games, they're competing for prizes, and they're showcasing the projects that these clients have worked on in the past and developed. So we would also like to incorporate testimonials from these clients in this event. So we would like to have a video of them saying what the organization really did for them, how it helped them to succeed, and how it gave them a voice. As Kate mentioned, technology plays a huge part in a lot of these people's lives, giving them a voice and helping them to achieve excellence. And so with that, I've told you how we're gonna do this, or what we're gonna do exactly. Tanner is gonna explain to you exactly how we're gonna do it.
Thank you very much. So, as my two colleagues have said, we have a great recommendation, but we all know if you really want to achieve excellence, you can't just talk the talk. You gotta walk the walk. So without further ado, and I promise, no pun intended, I shall walk you through our implementation today. So, I'm gonna start with a timeline. Phase 1, that's creating connections. I'm gonna dive into each phase in more detail, but phase 1 is creating connections. That's getting out there, and that's sharing our brand. Phase 2 is securing foundation. That's where we kind of set up our growth, and where we're gonna kind of start our expansion by setting up a good base. Our third will be initiating growth. Initiating growth is gonna be our final expansion plan and kind of getting to the goals that Melissa, you are looking for. So, phase 1, what first we're gonna do is we're gonna register as a not-for-profit. We're also gonna hire additional staff. Right now you have someone in charge of hiring. What we're also gonna do is make that person in charge of hiring and getting volunteers to teach your course. We're also gonna hire someone strictly for fundraising and strictly for marketing. The third person we're also gonna hire is someone to go after those grants we're looking for, because that is gonna be a big part of our implementation, and it's very important to us that we get a really qualified person who is a skilled writer so that we can get those grants and help people, because that's what we're all about, creating that equity. We're also gonna move into our new location and have a permanent place so people know they can come to our new store, and that's what I'm looking for. And they know it's kind of like a home or a place they can come and feel safe and learn. So, phase 2, that's securing foundation. So that's where we're going to apply for the grants. So, the guy we hired, we put a little bit of pressure on him, but we're making sure we're getting the right candidate because we need that money, and we're going kind of ham for it. So, we're also going to implement our marketing plan. That's where, as Jessica said, we're kind of pushing out that equity of what the autism community has to bring in the tech world. We're also going to secure volunteer facilitators, so that person who's in charge of hiring and volunteering, they're going to go out and try to bring in those volunteers who can teach the class and make a difference. We're also going to host our Tech Ability fundraising event. As Jess mentioned, it'll be kind of like a games night because the autism clients create games, so maybe we can bring in a tech company from the Ontario area, and they can sponsor the event, and they can come play the games, maybe buy a game or hire people. And it's a great networking event for the clients, as well as just kind of a feel-good night for everyone involved. The third thing is initiating growth. So that's where we're going to continue our yearly event, as well as taking our business plan that we have in place and moving it to other places in Ontario, maybe such as Ottawa, but trying to expand for future years. So I'm going to go through financials. As you can see, there's a lot of numbers up there. I want you to focus on these 3 numbers right here. This is our net profit. This is the most important thing we got to look at. As you mentioned, Melissa, you were looking for about $60,000 as a salary. Right now, that's simply just not viable. you're a not-for-profit, and maybe in future when you expand, we can look into getting you that $60,000. But right now, I apologize, that's just not a viable option. And your salary will be based on how we do best case, base case, worst case. And we're looking, hopefully, a base case that'll get you a salary around $31,000 a year. Other things to mention would be that the grant we're looking for is a $30,000 grant. That's the startup that we get 3 years in a row. As well as we're applying for the grant that pays half our salaries roughly. That's not it, we're gonna be going after other ones. I don't have them included in the budget because they're kind of extra, kind of cherry on top things. But the CSP, it's tailored towards people who are helping the autism community not only to better themselves, but to also get them a job. And that's what we are doing. So we're most likely to get that one as well. So, risks. So what if we don't get the grants? I said we put a lot of pressure on that guy. What happens if we don't get him? Well, we're going to look to corporate financing. So maybe whoever hosts the event, we can give them naming rights to either one of our classes, something in our building. We'll kind of look to them to kind of pick up that lost money that we may not get in our first couple of years. What if we don't get a limited volunteers to teach a class? Right now, the best case was, I had the budget set up as best case, base case, worst case. That was if best case was if you had your 15 max, 10 was your base, and 5 was your worst case as number of students in your class. We'd look to cut the cap from 15 that you have to maybe 10, just to kind of cost-cutting measures that we wouldn't want, but we might have to do just to kind of save a little bit of money. The final thing would be if there's a lack of client interest. Maybe we can switch markets, maybe a new location, or go after different kinds of technological abilities. So with that being said, I told you how we're going to get your recommendation accomplished. I'm going to pass it off to Kate so she can remind you why it's so important.
Thanks, Tanner. So just a couple of things going forward. We have a lot of ideas floating around, and there's a pretty detailed implementation, a lot of things that we kind of glazed over for you. So we understand if you have a couple more questions at the end, we'd be happy to answer those. One thing is we do plan on renting out some of our space in our house building that we buy on the weekends when we're not using it to other autism-based groups who might need the space. And again, that $200 community rate. So that will help us generate a little bit of income just to kind of subsidize anything we may lose in grants. Additionally, we see so much opportunity as registering as a not-for-profit. We believe that this is the cause-driven route to take, and it's important to maintain that stance. It's not about making money, it's about helping as many people as we can and providing them with the tools necessary to be successful and have an empowered and meaningful future. Additionally, we want to increase that capacity, as I mentioned. If we can help more people, that's the ultimate goal. And through this fundraising event and our email blast and utilizing online communities for autism support groups, we're hoping to generate a lot more awareness, and of that $250,000, obtain that 5% market share over the next 2 years. 5% is not a whole lot, but 2,500 people is huge, and if we can get that many people to our first networking event, we can, first of all, generate some funds. Second of all, generate new clients, which is the ultimate goal right now. And finally, it's binding the whole community together. We're looking at tech firms coming to network and to sponsor these events. We're looking at the schools to provide volunteer teachers to teach and facilitate those classes. And Melissa has so many connections that we can utilize in that way that it ultimately creates that connection and utilizes that technology to achieve the most excellence possible for your firm. With that, we'd like to open the floor to any questions.
So I appreciate your honesty that I'm not going to be making the money that I want to be making. So in your thoughts and sort of looking at my case, what's the best place for me to put my personal resources, my skill set, my abilities, so that 3-4 years down the road I can be making some money?
So we think that your focus should be on growth primarily, and that would be scouting out other cities to see if there's people like yourself who are interested in kind of taking that to the next level and instituting, like you kind of mentioned, the franchise aspect of taking the same organizational structure you have and implementing it in a new city. So we would want you to be focusing on the growth, and that's what's ultimately going to get you up to that salary in the next several years by having more clients and expanding your abilities as volunteer bases and facilitators.
Thanks.
You started out very strong by doing a personal experience and the touch and the heart. That's why at the end, when I looked at how few people you actually are thinking will be part of it, I was sort of surprised, because you had me at your testimony. So I think, you know, that is what attracts other people to a program of this strength. I'm just wondering why your numbers are so low. Like, do you think the company is great to be able to only attract that many?
We think it's absolutely a wonderful company. And the reason that we started out is because as the company generates more recognition within the community and more awareness, we feel that these numbers will grow. And we want to be able to facilitate this expansion, which is why we came up with this recommendation. However, at the beginning, you currently have 15 participants per class, and so we started with that as a base. And that's what we started with, just so that we could use this number to sort of base our expansion plan off of.
Just to, oh, sorry, go ahead. Just want to add on to that. We also want to keep that ratio of 3 facilitators to 1 person. Again, it's so important that everyone's skills are specifically accounted for. And if we overdo how many people are in each class, we might lose that ratio. And we think it's super important, again, to make sure they have those targeted teaching to them.
And the experience.
And the experience.
So you want me to go to cities? I'd like to do that, but I gotta get 50K or something. I gotta have a salary. I like this tech ability idea for a minute and this exposure, but you know, I think we're just gonna, people are gonna get turned off at a $10 entry fee. Why? You've got such a strong sponsorship. Why can't we sponsor that? Get sponsors for that. Get more people in the room.
I think that's a possibility. I think we're still in the stage right now where we want to kind of not get anything we can get, but kind of develop our base so that we can attract maybe a bigger tech firm, as opposed to right now we don't have strong connections with the business community, so we kind of want to grow it a bit before we jump to bigger and larger opportunities.
If I make 50% less, can I pay you 50% less as my consulting firm?
Absolutely.
Yes.
I don't believe you.
As the current facilitator making $18 an hour, what are the odds they're gonna stay on to become a volunteer facilitator? And what's the risk?
We're actually looking to focus, hire staff more on the organizational structure, and 1 person who's in charge of hiring volunteers. And their job will actually be to find facilitators who are willing to work pro bono and do it as part of their volunteerism. And that's why we want to target people who already work at schools like teaching aides, who maybe work part-time and they work with people with autism already, so they do have those skills.
Would your cousin's family be an investor? A sponsor?
I think what we would look for.
Or her cousin.
Oh.
I know what her cousin would look for. Is we're looking to maybe not invest actual money, because that might not be available, but someone like Kate would go and volunteer at our facility, and like time is more valuable than money, in my opinion, because if I give you $10, I can go get myself another $10, but if I give you 10 minutes of my time, I'll never get that back. So that's what we're kind of looking for with families.
Thank you very much.
That's it.